Hello once again, you're welcome to part 2 settlement geography. Those who are just new, hit the subscription button, like and share the video, and let's get started. So we are starting off with our part 2 with classification of settlements, dispersed and nucleated settlements. So classification, we are looking at the pattern. How is the settlement arranged when it is dispersed, as you can see from the diagram? The settlements are very far apart from each other. And when it's nucleated, usually the settlements are very close together in a certain point, as you can see there. Now, what are the reasons for different shapes of rural settlement patterns? For example, if we have a round settlement pattern, it might mean that there's a marketplace that is shared by a communal land. If it is linear, this is more of a linear settlement. It means that the settlement is along road networks or along a river. If there is a crossroad, we usually say it's a crossroad settlement pattern. A crossroad, this would be a crossroad settlement pattern. A crossroad settlement pattern, the influence is usually a road because there's a crossroad. A T-shaped settlement pattern, this is a T-shaped settlement pattern, also influenced by a road, and it occurs along a conjunction to allow everyone access to the road. If it is star-shaped as this, it means that it is influenced by road networks. You are going to see that settlement patterns are things that you're going to identify in your theory paper as also in your map work paper. So you need also to make sure you note this and also note the reasons for this. Now, land use in rural areas. What is the land use in the rural areas? Land use in the rural areas is mainly used: 1, conservation areas like the natural vegetation conserved for animals. 2, it can be recreational areas, tourism. 3, it can be plantations or forestry. 4, farm workers' housing. 5, rural urban fringe activities can also take place. Rural urban fringe activities includes airports, grave sites, waste dumps, informal settlements, market gardens, reservoirs, irrigation, fishing are also land use areas that can be used in the rural areas. And most likely also, as I said in the first part of the video, they can also be used for farming. Whenever we look at rural settlements, we always talk about waypoint settlements. What are waypoint settlements? They are found in areas where there's a shortage of water. So settlements are usually located close to a water source, as you can see in the diagram. It will be known as a waypoint settlement. We also have what are known as dry points settlements. Dry point settlement, what does that mean? Dry point settlement, as seen there in the diagram, they are settlements that are found away from marshy or floody prone areas. So usually the settlements are located on higher ground so as to avoid flooding. This is also one thing you need to take note of when you are looking at your theory papers. Now, rural settlements are affected by so many issues. We have the concept of rural-urban migration. Many people move from rural areas to urban areas. Why? Because of unemployment, poverty, poor services. So it means people leave the rural areas as a result of negative factors, which you call the push factors. And they are attracted to pull factors, which are positive factors in the cities. Rural depopulation. Because people leave the rural areas going to the urban areas, it causes rural depopulation, where population in the rural areas becomes less. And causes and consequences of rural depopulation is that we are going to have the young adults moving away, and especially the men. And we will leave the elderly in the rural areas, women and children also left. So what's going to happen is that rural areas are going to become less productive because there's less populations supporting businesses. So it can lead to income declines, services can close down, You are going to see in your books there, when we talk about services closing down, it will say it creates what are known as ghost towns, and it increases poverty, and with time those areas are no longer going to be in existence. So what are the strategies? Strategies to reduce this: we need to create jobs in our rural areas, decentralize industries, develop corridors, skills development in the rural areas so as to keep people in the rural areas, improve transportation, health and education facilities, make sure we have retirement village homes to attract people there and also to attract employment. Social justice issues in the rural areas, we also need to make sure that HIV and AIDS, which becomes a problem, needs to be addressed too. Rural areas also need to address issues of land reform that is necessary, because in South Africa, inequalities exist due to apartheid legislation of the past, which prevented all people owning land. Land reform, equitable distribution on land ownership by changing laws about ownership and land. We also need to concentrate on land distribution. Some agricultural land must be brought and given back to black owners by the state. Land restitution, return land to people who fell victim to forced removals, especially in the apartheid era. And also implement land tenure reform to secure residential rights of people living on their land. Challenges of land reform. We know that even if you want to implement land reform, there are going to be challenges there. Corruption issues, winning buyer and selling causes delays. It is always very costly. There are grey areas in land reform policies, disagreement between government and traditional leaders, land redistributed to those who have no interest to knowledge in farming, and move from subsistence to commercial farming has not also occurred, because there isn't much education with regards to empowering people. So the next time I meet you, we are going to try to look at activities so that we can see how much we have learned, and start looking at urban settlements in my next video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm surely going to look at activities so that we can start preparing for our examinations. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share. Thank you for supporting the video. Bye.